Hi guys, welcome to another video. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you guys how to draft this front twist design pattern. Now, if it's something that you're really interested in, then I implore you to stay tuned and watch the end of this video. Now, one more thing I'd like to add is that I've decided to divide this video into two parts, one for pattern drafting and the other one for illustration on fabric for better understanding, because I know this particular design can be very confusing and difficult to understand for some people, so I've decided to do that. Okay, now having said that, let's just dive right into this video. Now on the front pattern, the first thing I'll be doing is coming down by about 1 inch. Then I'll just draw a straight line there. I want to start my shoulder line or my measurement from that line. That will be serving as my shoulder line. So I'll start my measurements from that place. Then I'll be coming down by 17 inches for the length of this top. It's going to be like a crop top. So 17 inches from the shoulder line, and then I'll just connect together using a straight ruler like so. Now the next thing that I will do is to go over to the shoulder line and come down by 10 inches. That will serve as the bust point measurement. That's what I'm marking. Then I came up by 2 inches from the bust point. That's 8 inches from the shoulder line. That will serve as the chest line. So I'll just mark that and then I'll connect together using a straight ruler like so. Now the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 14 inches. So divided by 2 gives me 7 inches. That's what I'm marking on the shoulder line. I'll go over to the chest line and also place that 7 inches on the line like that. Then I'll connect together using a straight ruler like so. Now I'll go over to that line and come down by 1 inch. That will serve as the shoulder slope line. I'm coming down 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then that will leave me with 7 inches from that point to the chest line point. Then the midpoint of that will be 3.5 inches. That's what I'm marking. Then I'll come out by half an inch from that point. Now the neck measurement I'll be using for the front pattern is going to be 3.5 by 5 inches. That's 3.5 for the width and then 5 inches for the depth of this neck for the front. That's what I'm marking. And after doing that, I'll be connecting the points together using a curved ruler like so. After which I'll be connecting the shoulder slope to the neckline like so. Now the next thing that we'll be doing is moving over to the chest line so we can place our bust circumference measurement. I'm working with a bust circumference of 34 inches. Divided by 4 gives me 8.5. So that's what I'm going to be placing on the chest line like so. Then from that point, I'm going to be drawing my armhole curve using a curved ruler. Now going over to the waistline, I'll be inputting the waist circumference. I'm working with a waist 25 inches. Divided by 4 gives me 6.25. So that's what I marked there. And then after doing that, I'll be connecting together. I'm not going to be putting that for this particular pattern, guys. It's a dartless pattern. Now I'll just go ahead and cut out this pattern. Now I'm going to be coming down 2 inches from the chest line, which will equate to 10 inches from the shoulder line, which happens to be the bust point for this particular pattern. And then I'll be highlighting it with a marker and a straight ruler. Then I'll go ahead to label the two halves cut line or CL. Now this cut line or the bust point line is going to be where we are going to be cutting this twist from, as you will see as we progress in this video. And the center front line on that cut line is going to be the focal point for this twist. So I'll move over to that other side, the side seam, and then you measure what you have from that line to the M line. From the cut line, from the down part, you measure what you have there, then you divide it into 3 or 4 parts, depends on what you want. But I'll be dividing that place into 3 parts like so. So after dividing the side seam into 3 or 4 parts, depending on what you want, I'm going to be connecting it straight to the center front like so, which I said is going to be the focal point of this twist design. So I'll connect it straight from the center front into the parts that I divided at the side seam like so. And I also want you to note that remember that the front pattern is going to be on fold. We are assuming is on fold. Now the lower part of this pattern has three parts. Now it's been divided into three parts. Now I'll move over to the upper part of this pattern, and then you go over to the armhole. I want the twist to come from this armhole area, so I'm going to be dividing what I have in this armhole by 3 or 4, like I said, depending on what you want for your design. So I'll be dividing this into three portions, this armhole area into three parts. If you have 10 inches, they divide it into three. If you have 9 inches, you divide it into 3 or 4, depending on what you want. Then I will also connect back into these vocal points that I said at the center front. So I will draw these lines and connect them together. So I'll just go ahead and number the lines. We have 4 lines of interest right now for this pattern. Now I'll just use my marker now to highlight these lines so we can see clearly. Now I'll just go ahead and just relabel these lines 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'll go over to the center front and also label the center front CF1 and CF2, which indicates the upper and lower part of the center front. Then I'll go over to the cut line and also label 1 and 2 for this cut line at the bust point. Now the next thing that I'm going to be doing now is going from the vocal point. I'm going to be slashing this paper one after the other, following these lines that we've labeled. And I'm also going to be dividing this paper from the cut line into two parts. So just watch what I'm doing. From the vocal points like so, I'm going to be slashing this paper, following the lines that we labeled earlier, but I will not be cutting all the way through. Just watch what I'm doing. But on the cut line at the bust point, I'll be cutting all the way through because I want to divide this pattern into two parts. Then I'll go ahead and resume the slashing at the armhole area like so. Then I'm going to be placing this pattern on a fresh paper for the splash and spread method. So here is the pattern, the front pattern, and it's divided into two parts, and that is the cut line for the upper and the lower parts. I've labeled it already so you can understand better. Now I'll just rule out this straight horizontal line for reference before I start placing the paper on it for the splash and spread technique. So now it's time to place our pattern paper on this reference line. So I'm going to be taking the upper part of the front pattern and placing it like so. Then I'll take the lower part of the front pattern. Remember, we've already cut this pattern into two parts. So I'm going to be placing it directly opposite the upper part of the front pattern in a way that the CF1 and CF2 are opposite each other, and then the cut line 1 and cut line 2 are also opposite each other. So I'll make sure that the tip of the cut line of the other side, the one I'm holding right now, the tip is touching the reference line like so. Then I'll take my masking tape and make sure that I hold it in place with it like that. After I do that, then from that tip, I'm just moving this camera closer so you can see very well. So now from that tip that we placed earlier, I'm going to be measuring for about 4 centimeters from that tip upwards. I'm trying to use this splash and spread now, so I'm spreading this paper to give it more volume. I hope you understand. So about 4 centimeters from that tip, then I'll place the second tip on that 4 centimeter line and then hold it in place with the masking tape as well. Then I'll repeat the process and also measure about 4 centimeters from the second tip upwards so I can place the third one on it. I hope you understand, guys. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape the rest of the pattern down so it doesn't move or shift. Then I'm just going to draw a straight line in between these two patterns to demarcate them before I position the second one for spreading. So placing the second one is pretty easy. You just follow the first one that you did, making sure that the tips are almost touching each other, but they're like facing the same direction. The tips are almost identical in their positions. So I'm just going to be following what I did for the other side. A gentle reminder that that's the armhole and that's the neckline, so we don't get confused. So now I'm going to be placing this other tip following the one that we did before, like so, making sure they are facing each other. And in the process of trying to spread this paper, if you are finding difficult to make a paper really flat on the surface, then you probably need to cut it a little bit, just like I did now. Then the paper will lie flat. So I'm just going to tape the rest down like so. And guys, if you've made it so far in this video right now and you're enjoying this video and you haven't subscribed yet, please click the subscribe button and join the family. Thank you. Now I'm going to be going over this again so we don't get confused. So this is the armhole right here. That's the neckline right there. This is the shoulder. And this is the cut line 2 for the lower part of the pattern and the cut line 1 for the upper part of the pattern. That is the M line right there. So I'll go over to the center front right there and draw a curved line right there. I don't want that area to be sharp when I'm cutting. Then I'll go down to the cut line at the bust point right there and also draw a curved line. I don't want those points to be sharp. I want them curved. Now I'm going to be cutting out this paper right now, leaving about half an inch of sewing allowance. Now I want you to take note of how I'm cutting at the cut line right there. I'm cutting in a curved way. I'm not cutting it as a sharp edge. And then I want you to also take note of how I'm going to be cutting from the center front. I'm not going to be following that V shape. I'm going to be cutting in a curved way like so. Yeah, that side is going to be curved like that. So here is the cutout pattern for the front, and that's the cut line 1 and 2 right there, which is going to come together when you're sewing. Now let's move to the back pattern. I already went ahead to draft the back pattern using the measurement I used for the front basically, except for the neckline. I came down 2.5 inches for the depth of the neck, and I also added zipper allowance because I'm not going to be using a stretchy material for this design. But if you're using a stretchy material, then you might not need to add a zipper, and you might also add it if you want. It totally depends on what you want, really. So yeah, this is the back pattern. The back pattern doesn't really have any issue like that. It's not really hard to draft. So the next upload is going to be about the sewing of this design on fabric. We'll transfer from pattern to fabric and then we'll sew and see how it looks. Yeah, and so on that note, this brings us to the end of today's tutorial, guys. If you found my video really helpful, please give me a thumbs up and share my video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button and join the family. And also turn on your notification bell so you can get notified whenever I upload new videos. So till I see you in my next video, guys. Bye.